Indians are ruining the US job market and they are laughing. So you did everything right. You got the certs, you got the degrees, you did the projects, and still no job. All while US companies are hiring millions upon millions of H-1B visa applicants for roles that you applied to. So what's really happening? So many tech jobs are being absolutely outsourced. And this isn't a new phenomenon whatsoever. This has been going on for a very long time, decades, in fact. And it's especially been happening to Indians, Filipinos, and Eastern Europeans. Now, is this just because US companies like Filipinos, Indians, and other people? No, it's because they work for pennies on the dollar of what a United States worker gets. So United States workers are not getting what they deserve and what their boomer parents told them what to do, because their boomer parents just sold all of their jobs out to people who work for pennies on the dollar who aren't even related to their kids. Imagine that. Boomer moment. So anyway, like I said, outsourced, especially in the tech market. And if you're in the tech market, you know this because you've seen it before, right? You've seen all these, especially entry-level positions with, let's just do IT, for example. Entry-level IT positions go to some outsourced company. Okay, cool. Well, that sucks, but, at least it's not happening everywhere, right? And then you go and take your exam online for your online school, and guess what? Your proctored exam is proctored by an Indian, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, surely my tech support for my vacuum cleaner won't be outsourced as well. Well, guess what? Your vacuum cleaner messed up and got broken, and guess what? You call the support line and you hear an Indian on the phone. These jobs should be American jobs, not outsourced jobs. But why do these companies hire these people? And what can we do about it? So, like I said, these jobs are given to H-1B visa holders instead of actual domestic workers here in the United States. And that's what we're focusing on. And like I said, this is often driven by cost cutting. Like I said, these people work for pennies on the dollar. And when I mean pennies on the dollar, because these people can do remote jobs in their country and get paid, I don't know, $100 a day, and then we'll be happy, right? When an American worker needs to be paid, I don't know, like $200+ a day for their skills to be, for you to be paid for your skills accurately. And that's what you deserve because that's what the boomers said. And that's, the boomers still sold out the country to every other country on the planet. So now large consulting firms are using this to flood the economy, the US economy, the job market, and allowing us to have record low wages. And that's not good. And the thing is, US citizens can't compete on price because the cost of living here in the United States is a lot higher than the cost of living here in India. And it's really up to these companies and these corporations to do right by the American consumer. And I mean, if you aren't getting paid in the United States, then who's buying your products? I mean, realistically, like, what is going to happen if nobody has money to buy your products? What are you going to do? Give it all to Indians overseas who can't afford your products either? So a little bit of, putting on your thinking cap for corporations and thinking a little ahead more than the next shareholder meeting might let you know that, hey, we actually need to do something to help American citizens and not foreign citizens who have no interest in our economy whatsoever. And like I said, here's a quote from a real job seeker. You're the perfect candidate, but we need somebody who can do it cheaper. Yeah. And, not even going into the dirty business of H-1B visas yet. So, like I said, these companies will sponsor mainly Indians from across the ocean. They'll come here, and then these Indians feel like they're held hostage because they can't go anywhere else, because if they do, they're in this country illegally and they're going to get deported. So They're just taking advantage of the system while these corporations are taking advantage of these Indians that come over here. And it's kind of sad. Like they have nothing to do, or they can't do anything other than go back, which, you know, would be great for the US labor market. But at the end of the day, these are still people. However, these companies need to stop taking advantage of people like that. But this isn't about the dirty business of H-1B visas. It's about how H-1B applicants are taking American jobs and ruining American lives. So how does this affect the American worker? Well, it affects them in a lot of ways. Stagnant economy. If you have people not getting paid and not getting jobs here in the United States, what's that doing? Like I said, who's going to buy your product if nobody can afford your product? It's that simple. And companies, they only think to the next shareholder meeting, so the next quarter, instead of the next 5, 10, 20 years. Next thing, wage compression. Salaries are already flat and are rapidly dropping in some segments of the job market, specifically tech, whether that be IT, software engineering, DevOps, doesn't matter. Cybersecurity doesn't matter. These wages are being completely obliterated because of the influx of a lot of lower paid labor. And there's a lot more people who live in India than the United States. I think it's like 2 billion people live in India compared to the United States, which is only like 300 some million people. And these salaries, due to market and supply, a lot of people like to deny the existence of, supply and demand. Guess what? It's all about markets and supply and demand. And you're losing these jobs, mainly like entry level to mid-level jobs, to people coming to this country and taking them from you with the assistance of these own U.S. companies, which is absolutely insane. Loss of upward mobility for citizens and green card holders. The people who do it the right way, the green card holders, need good jobs as well. So what happens when they're undercut by these corporations who are hiring people who will do their job for pennies on the dollar? They can't get jobs, and then what do you know? They're stuck somewhere else, and they're better off just being an Indian in India and getting an H-1B visa, which is the sad way for doing it, because people come to this country, love this country, and do it the right way. And then, this is technically the right way, but ethically, is it the right thing to do? No, it's not. You don't see people coming to India, influxing their job market, destroying their salaries and their jobs. No, you don't see that. And then you have disillusionment of new grads and veterans in the tech field. Because they're like, oh yeah, my boomer parent said if I go to college, pay $100,000, I'll easily be able to pay it back, because guess what? I'll be able to get a good tech job. And next thing you know, you got passed up for an Indian, and what's going to happen then? You get disillusioned, and you don't want to work for these companies, because these companies are giant sellouts whatsoever. It's absolutely crazy to think about. So let's talk about personal experience and strategy. So me personally, I was in the military for 4 years. I got a security clearance, and then afterwards I was able to basically get any tech job I wanted, because most of those require you to be a US citizen. So you can't be outsold to the lowest bidder by somebody in India. So you're protected by that by law. But I have civilian friends who went to college, didn't go to the military, didn't think about getting a security clearance or anything like that. And then they become like data analysts, tech support workers and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden they find out they can't get a job, or they can get a job, but at an extremely low salary, because they're working with Indians who are there on H-1B visas getting paid, I would say, below the legal limit. But I can't really say for sure because I'm not them, but I can, from personal experience and what I've heard, they're not getting paid what they should get paid, and they're being held essentially hostage. So that is the downfall of not having a security clearance or anything like that, because guess what? Anybody can do your job anybody around the world as long as they have an internet connection or a willingness to be sponsored and get paid nothing. But nothing here is a lot more than India. So I can't really blame them, honestly. They're just taking advantage of it, of the situation, which me personally, I think H-1B visas should be totally eliminated. There's no need for them. We have the education here in the United States, and we have tons of graduates and students and experienced professionals who have the experience, and companies just don't want to pay them, which is absolutely stupid, in my opinion. So let's talk about solutions. What solution can we come up with? If it were up to Cyberman, I would say ban all H-1B visas and send them all back. That's just how it is. And that will be best for the American worker. Yes, I know I sound like that South Park episode where it's like, they're taking all our jobs. But I mean, come on, what's going on here? Like our jobs and our salaries are getting tanked because companies are taking advantage of people from a less fortunate country to come here and do work for basically slave wages over here. Doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. The next thing I would do, promote local talent, and it's like, I can say all this stuff because I'm a business owner myself and I've experienced this. And the fact that these companies don't want to do it, it's just absolutely crazy to me because, their bottom line will just get a little less. They'll lose a little more money by paying their people more. But guess what? You have the loyalty of the people who work in your country and the people who want to stay with your company. And then the next thing is, if you're interested in working in the cleared space and you have a clean history and you love your country, go and try to find a company that will sponsor your security clearance, which will be extremely, extremely hard because a lot of companies don't do it because it is pretty expensive. If not, go join your local National Guard, serve your state, serve your country, be patriotic, because guess what? You may not like your country, but your country has a lot of benefits that can offer you. And it really is not that bad. And I know some people will be like, well, if a drill instructor got in my face, I'd punch him in the face. Well, if that's the case, be happy working Burger King and minimum wage and having Indians take your jobs. Because guess what? While you're doing that, I am providing real jobs to real people who are motivated and would love to be in tech and love their country. So have you ever run into this into your job search? Let me know your experience in the comments. And look, it's not about blaming workers from other countries because they're just taking advantage of the system that the United States propped up, but it is holding corporations and policymakers accountable and protecting the long-term opportunity for U.S. tech professionals. All right, I'm out.